Okay guys, welcome back. So what we're going to do starting today is we're going to start doing some learn to play games for Armada. So anyone that's going to be new to the game with the new factions can get a little bit of a heads up and start learning how to play the game. I'm going to try and keep each video to 10 minutes or less. And each one is going to take a different segment of the game. We'll do deployment, we'll do ship phase, status phase, we'll play a round or two, or maybe even more rounds of the game. But in order to do that, what we need to do is have ships that we're going to be putting on the board. I was asked to do, explain the Learn to Play game from the original core set. And I thought that that was a decent idea, but I thought what I would do is I'm going to modify that and use ships that more closely match with the ships that we're going to see in the new starters, and create two lists using the Rebel and Imperial ships that we have to stand in for the Separatists and the Republic ships that are coming, and do a Learn to Play game using ships similar to what we're going to get in the new starters. So what I've done here is I've created two lists. I've decided that I'm to use the Rebels as a stand-in for the Separatists. Now, the one issue that I had with this is probably the one ship that we have the most information for is the Consular class cruiser. And the Consular class cruiser most closely aligns with a CR-90, which is a Rebel ship. The problem being is the Rebels only have one medium ship, so we have to use an Assault Frigate Mark II. And that Assault Frigate Mark II doesn't really align very well with the Acclimator, but it actually aligns pretty well with the Munificent. The dice are similar. We don't have a lot of information about the Munificent, but the dice are similar, the arcs are similar, the shielding is similar. So I decided to use the Assault Frigate Mark II as the stand-in for the Munificent. Defense suite's a little bit different, but that's okay. It'll be close. And then what we needed is a stand-in for the hard sell. And with the hard sell, it's a little bit tough. Hard sell looks like somewhat of a unique small. And so I'm not going to use the CR-90 because we already said that is close to the Consular, and we're not going to make the hard sell is definitely not a Consular class cruiser. The dice of the hard sell match pretty close to a hammerhead, but the shielding and the points cost more closely resemble a Nebulon B. And I decided to go with the Nebulon B because I think it's probably a better match in terms of shielding. It does have more dice, especially in the rear. The hard sell has no dice in the rear. But if you're shooting out of the rear of your ship, you're probably in trouble anyways, so we're not going to worry too much about that extra dice. We don't know what the defense suite of the hard sell is, but my guess is that's what's going to make the difference in the cost between a hard sell and a hammerhead. A hammerhead doesn't have a great defense suite. My guess is the hard sell is it's probably going to at least have a brace. And because of the shielding being exactly the same as a Nebulon B, you never know, it could be the same. A couple of braces and an evade. It could be one brace, a redirect and an evade. They might even throw a contain in there. We just don't know. But my guess is we're definitely going to probably see a brace on there. It's hard to justify the cost difference between the hard sell and the hammerhead with what we know about it, unless the defense suite is different. So I thought the Nebulon B would be a better stand-in. And so we put two Nebulon Bs in our list. Then we needed a squadron, and we need a squadron that is going to stand in for a Vulture Droid. Vulture Droid is a cheap squadron. It has Swarm, which is actually not an ability that a lot of Rebel squadrons have. And I wanted to get that in there. And it has a new ability, which obviously we're not going to have with the Rebel ships. That ability says that if you're activated from another ship, you get to add a dice to your anti-squadron pool. So knowing that, and knowing that you're probably going to be activating it from a ship, I decided to go with a Z95 Headhunter. The Z95, it has Swarm. It has the same number of, it has 3 anti-squadron dice. It has the 1 anti-ship dice. The hull is 3, which is the same. It's slightly slower at speed 3, but it's a point cheaper. So, I think it all evens out. And we're going to see that I worked really hard to match the points between our two lists. And then in terms of our commander, I've gone with General Dodonna. He's just a good overall commander. And what I want to do with the commander is just show you how you need to be able to take advantage of your upgrades and use them when the time is right. And he helped balance my points between the two lists. And we don't know a lot about we don't know as much about the Separatists commanders. So I went with Dodonna as our commander for the Separatists. Now, for our Republic fleet to stand in for the Acclimator, I decided to go with a Victory Star Destroyer, which is actually pretty close. I mean, the Victory probably in the history of Armada probably was derived from an Acclimator anyways. So it has similar dice, not exactly the same. It was just the best. It's not going to be an interdictor. It's not going to be the carrier. Victory was really the only choice that we had to go with here. And then now to stand in for the Consular class, it's not as good a match as the CR90s, but I decided to go with Raiders. The Imperials don't actually have a lot of small ships, but it's definitely, not a Gladiator. It's definitely not an Architans. The Raider is going to be more closely match. It's the fastest that we have. The dice are quite a bit different. The Raider's more close range than the Consular is going to be. But a lot of the other statistics are the same. They're both going to be squishy. They're both going to be ships that die relatively easily. And I decided to go with both one of each variant of the Raider because it worked with the points. And then finally, we need a squadron to stand in for the Torrent. The Torrent is actually a really unique squadron. I like it a lot. I think it's going to see a lot of play in the game, probably for quite a while. It has something that we've never seen on a squadron before, and that's both the escort and the swarm keyword. Quick explanation of escort. Escort says that if your opponent is attacking a squadron and it has both a squadron with escort that it's engaged with and another squadron, it has to attack the squadron with escort first. So it's a good screen type of a squadron that's going to protect your more valuable squadrons. And then it has swarm, which lets you reroll a dice if you have multiple squadrons engaged at the same time. The Torrent is speed 3, hull 5. Hull 5 is pretty strong for generic squadron. 3 anti-squadron dice, 1 anti-ship dice. Now the squadron that I picked, it's not super great analogy to the Torrent, but nothing really was. I ignored the escort keyword because if you're only going to use squadrons with escort negates itself because there's nothing to protect. If everything has escort, then your opponent can shoot at any of them. So I ignored escort for now, went with swarm, and I ended up going with the TIE Interceptor. The points were similar. We'll probably during the game ignore the counter keyword because we're not seeing that with the torrent, and that's a pretty powerful ability, and would probably wipe out our Z95 Headhunters pretty quick if we use the counter. So we'll probably ignore the counter keyword. But we have our swarm. We have four anti-squadron dice, which is stronger. One anti-ship dice. And we flip-flop our hull and our speed. Here we have speed 5 and hull 3, so we kind of flip-flop those for 11 points. And then for a commander, I ended up going with Admiral Piet. I went with Piet, one, because the points worked, just like everything else, but also because Piet's ability is somewhat similar to Bail Organa's ability. And while not exactly the same, it will give you an idea of how Bail might work. So we're going to go with Piet as our commander. Both lists ended up being built out at 243 points, which is perfect. I wasn't going for a specific number of points. I was just going to I wasn't even necessarily going for the exact same points, which I ended up with. I just wanted something within a point or two of each other. So those are the lists that we're going to go through. The next time what we're going to do is we're going to talk about setup and deployment. And then we'll get into other phases of the game, status phase, ship phase, actually playing a couple of rounds of the game. And we're going to try and keep all those different segments to 10 minutes or less. And I will release these one at a time, and as I release them, I'll go back to the previous video, include in the comments links to the next video, as well as put a card at the end of the video linking to the next video in the chain. And I'll put all these videos into a single Learn to Play Armada group on my YouTube channel. So please, if you're really interested in learning how to play Armada and getting a little step up on other players as a new player, if you want to learn how to play, or maybe you want to learn how to play so you can better decide whether you want to buy into the game or not, please like and subscribe to the channel. That subscription will let you know as these videos come up. I hope to do them relatively quickly. I don't want you waiting a full week for these, but hopefully every day or two we'll get one of these videos up so that you can start learning about the game and see if the game is for you. And if it is, it'll hopefully give you an idea of how to play the game going forward. When these videos are all done, if there's enough demand for it, I might do a live stream Learn to Play game and have the people watching decide what the ships are going to do, which way it's going to turn, who you're going to shoot at. If you have multiple targets, which ship are we going to target first? And I'll let you take control of the ships, and I'll just be there to mechanically make everything go, and we'll see how things go. But so if you're interested in something like that, definitely leave a link, a comment saying that you would like to do a live stream Learn to Play game, and I will set that up once all these videos are done. So thank you very much. Keep armadaing, and we'll see you next time.